How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? You are now listening to the Apocalyptic Optimath channel, and I'm the Apocalyptic Optimath. And so today, welcome if it's your first time joining, by the way. And today we're going to talk about why. Because we keep saying, I keep saying, or we, I don't know. I think this is only an I don't think this is we. I keep saying that the Illuminati this and the Illuminati that, but I never give an explanation on why I believe that the Illuminati is this and the Illuminati is that. So this is going to be my explanation. It's a short explanation because the story is not that complicated. Of course, there's many variables and many people that were involved, of course. But at the end of the day, the story is still short and sweet. The Illuminati that you have today is not the Illuminati that it wasn't the original Illuminati. So I have roots to the Illuminati. What? Hold up. Wait a minute. On my dad's side, on my father's side, which is weird. Which is kind of weird because my mom is way more Illuminati than my dad was. Even though they both were Masons, my dad didn't really care about Freemasonry that much. I mean, he was in it, but it was kind of like, man, whatever. The thing is, on my dad's side, his last name can be, on my dad's side, his last name, which is my last name, can be traced back all the way back to France, to the origins of France. So I am a long lasting descendant of the original King of France. I shit you not. I'm not just saying that just to say it. I'm not just being crazy. That's just facts. Right? So, along the lines, in my father's family tree, some of them were part of the Knight Templars. Right? So, my family descendants are responsible for what you see here today, more or less. And before you start casting stones, before you start lapidating people, throwing rocks, the original Knight Templar were a completely different group than what the group that we have here today. How and why is that? Well, let me tell you. The original Knight Templar were also known as Crusaders. What are Crusaders? Crusaders were the soldiers that used to work for the church. So when a group of soldiers went into a specific territory and demanded that they subjugated that specific area into Christianity, they would send crusaders to do that, to subjugate people into Christianity. That's what a crusader is. Those crusaders were also known as Knight Templars, right? Because they were knights of the Templar, obviously. But When the dust was settled, when the smoke was cleared, basically when the Vatican had what they wanted, the Roman Catholic Vatican had what they wanted. Basically, they subjugated the entire continent into Christianity. They decided that it would be best in everybody's interest if they excused themselves from the table. And what I mean by that is that they decided to not have any associations with the violence that had been done in their name. And the way that they did that is that they excommunicated all of the Crusaders. And what that means, if you don't know what excommunication is, excommunication means, especially if the church do it, I know the state can do it and the church can do it, right? And I don't think it's the same thing. When the state does it, that means they don't know you at all. When the church do it, it's almost the same thing, but it's worse. Because the church are the ones responsible for burial. They're the ones that make the ceremony for the burial. Always has been, still today, that's still the thing. So the church is responsible for burying people. So when you're excommunicated from the church, that means that you don't get a burial mound. You don't get a tombstone. You're excommunicated. You never existed at all, dead or alive. So they rejected and disgraced the Crusaders. And this is where you get the word Satan. This is where you get the word Shaitan, which is a Latin word. And basically, they would outright disgrace these people and call them Satans in front of the masses, so that everybody, everyone, absolutely everyone, would be against these people. Now, if you haven't been listening, what that means is that the church betrayed the Crusaders. Straight up. They woke up one day and they decided, you know what? The sky's blue. My pants are red. And I feel like excommunicating somebody. And we're going to do it to them. That's basically what happened. That's basically what happened, bro. So this form of betrayal is a recurring theme, especially in the world of Christianity, of Catholicism, to be fair, to be more precise. In the world of Catholicism, this betrayal is a reoccurring thing. Happens a lot. It's happening to us today. It's happening to me today. The people that do the work always get excommunicado for some reason. I don't know what it is. maybe humans think that's a fun thing to do. I don't know. So they call these people Satan. They got rejected by society. And society, they were outcast by society. They were left to die. Some of you got to understand, the ones that was already in Rome, at least, although they were social outcasts, at least they had a place to live. But you have to understand, when they decided to excommunicado the Knight Templars, the Crusaders, some of them were still in the desert, waiting for news, supplies, and reinforcement. They had no idea that the church just left them to dry out in the desert. That's how they became Knight Templars. That's where the name Knight Templars came, because it actually has nothing to do with the church. They became Knight Templars because they started taking odd jobs, because at some point they realized that the church was not going to come and pick them up, that they were cut off from all communication, and so on and so on. So since they were stuck in Afghanistan, since they were stuck in Kazakhstan, since they were stuck in Africa, since they were stuck in Europe, in Great England, they decided to take jobs, and they made a little bit of money doing it. And they decided to do what? Create what we have today known as a bank. The Knight Templars created banks, not out of evil, but out of necessity, to survive, because they had to survive some way, somehow. So they started opening banks, borrowing money, doing jobs, borrowing money, lending money, taking money, keeping money safe from other people, supplying also, because at the bank at the time, you have to understand, like, it's not like today where you have a credit card and you can just, so if you had something that was in their vaults, wherever their vault were, and you wanted it back, they had to bring it to you, or you had to go to them. And of course, they would charge you for everything, because that's what a smart person would do. And they were not only bankers, but also security. So they were doing two things at the same time. And who would keep your money safer than a bunch of ex-soldiers? That just makes sense. That just makes sense. So, the notion of the Illuminati today being a bunch of pedophiles and serial rapists and just brutally evil people, serially brutal people, cruel people, right? Torturers, and all of the above, has absolutely nothing to do with the actual Illuminati, with the actual Freemasonry, how it got started, what was the reason for it, and what was the purpose. Because of course These Knight Templars are These Knight Templars obviously had an issue with the church at the end of the day, because the church betrayed them. And that's where the Illuminati comes into the picture. The Illuminati was a spec ops of that time. It was a way to infiltrate society in the biggest levels of politics, the highest levels of politics, and infiltrate society in the highest levels so that they can gain control and overthrow the current government and replace the government with their people. But mind you, these guys had a good reason to do it. The guys we have today don't have any reason to do anything at all. Because the sad thing about this is, these people call themselves their brother's keepers. You are not my brother, and you are not my keeper. And you're definitely not my ward. Because we had real issues. We fought wars. We bled and made probably innocent people bleed also, in the name of the church that betrayed us. You guys are about sex trafficking, child trafficking, drugs, all kinds of nonsense that is just horrible to see and hear. Throw up content, barf paraphernalia, nauseating situations. That's what the current Illuminati is about. But it wasn't always like that. And it wasn't always about that. Somewhere along the line, this new generation of said Illuminati betrayed their own traditions, threw the plan in the water, probably because there was so much money involved that they was kind of like, you know what, we're just gonna let it slide, and we're just gonna go full blown corrupt, and we're just gonna do whatever the fuck we want, and fuck all that old shit, fuck all them traditions. That's exactly what happened. Because mind you, the Illuminati from the Gregorian era did get destroyed, dismantled by the government. The Bavarians, the Bavarian Illuminati, they got destroyed. They don't exist anymore. The only one that survived was the Weissops. These are the only ones that survived that era, because that dude's a big banker. That family is a banking family, and you need banks. So that's the only dude that survived. But it got recreated again. And of course, we all know that the Weissops are still Illuminati today. Of course. And I guess he didn't care about his grandfather's great plans. And this is because at the end of the day, if the Weishaupts are one of the richest families in the world, and they're still condoning the actions of this current establishment of Illuminati, is because he doesn't give a fuck about his grandpa's vision for the Illuminati. And the story. 2 + 2 is 4. The money corrupted them. It's the money. It has to be. But you can't just blame the money for everything, because money is fun to have. And you obviously understand that when you have money, you got power and you can do a bunch of things. But that's not indicative of just because at the end of the day, I don't blame money for it, because just because you have money, that doesn't absolutely mean that you have to do something bad with it. That makes no sense, because at the end of the day, it's like saying every time I get a paycheck, when I finish working on every Friday, like I'm a good person the whole week, right? Like I'm a great person the whole week. I go to church, I help people out, I go at the soup kitchen, I fucking give sandwiches to people, like the poor people in the street. You do everything, like you take care of everybody's children, the whole fucking 9 yard, right? But on Friday, when you get a paycheck, because you got money on your hands, you're the worst person in the world. But specifically on Friday. And the rest of the time that you don't have money in your pockets, you're fine. That makes no sense. That's BS. Pardon my language. That's nonsense. Nonsense. That's not a thing. Nobody's like that. If you're a bad person on Friday, you're a bad person all the time. You can't just be a bad person on Friday just because you got money in your pockets. That makes no sense. That's just not legit. So you can't just blame the money. These people decided to become evil. They made a conscious decision to be evil. Why? I don't know. But that's what happened. Because like I said, the original Knight Templars, the original Crusaders, they were betrayed by the church, and they had to do something to survive because they were stuck in the middle of the desert without any food and water. And if they died there, nobody would have known that they had died there, because ain't nobody was going to bury their bodies and put a gravestone with their name on it, because they got excommunicated. This is actual history. Look it up. Do your research. This is very different than a group of people that are trying to hide or corrupt people, or twisting people's mentality and morality into believing that pedophilia is a great thing. It's the best thing that Jesus Christ ever goddamn invented. That's a far cry. Two completely different things. Two completely different people. Not the same. So when I tell you that what these people are learning is to be like you, this is the reason why. Because the gnosis, the knowledge that the original Knight Templar had, was lost in translation. It was lost in translation. And of course, the Knight Templar started dabbling in the occult. What would you do if you were in their shoes? You spent countless wars going all over the globe fighting wars for a person that straight up one day woke up and decided to just betray your ass for no apparent fucking reason. Just because he didn't want to look bad. Just because he wanted to be popular with the kids and the parents. Yeah, you would dabble in occult too. You'd be like, man, fuck these niggas. Yes, he deserved to die, and I hope he burned in hell. You know what I mean? You would do the same exact thing. And this is why I assume that all these lies and illusions don't necessarily come from just the inside of my head or some bias study that I have studied. Because at the end of the day, I looked at both sides. At the end of the day, I looked at both sides. So, and to be quite honest, I don't see any side being right or wrong. I do think that what happened to the Crusaders was a clear, massive injustice. And they might call the Knight Templar a bunch of occultists, that they dabbled in black magic. But I feel like what has been done to them was also black magic. Whatever black magic means. And if you're a crazy person, you would say, nah, that's white magic. Because that's exactly what white magic is. You shine a light on your enemy, you destroy them. Well, we did it different. We crept in the shadows where there was no light, so that you can't see us. I don't believe that the Illuminati is hiding in the shadows. I think the Illuminati is shining like a motherfucker. I don't see how somebody wearing a Illuminati, a pyramid with an eye on his shirt is hiding from anybody. I think that's a clear indication of what and where this dude is going at or doing. I don't call that shadow. I don't see that as being the shadows. If you wasn't the shadow, we wouldn't see nothing. Ever. Wouldn't have a single clue. That's being in the shadow. But anyway, I'm oversimplifying here because this is a debate. This is debatable. So there's no point into going there because we can talk about it. We can go back and forth on who's in the shadow and who's in the light for eons and eons. So that's not important. But I do feel it's a little bit like projection when you're saying that we dabbled what was once us dabbled in black magic, when what you did to us, to me, feel that was black magic. Excommunicado, left to die in the desert, slander, all kinds of shit. And you did that shit in the name of a god. And that god left us to die in the desert. We didn't even have a warning. And of course, You can say, well, what you guys were doing wasn't even that good in the first damn place. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. But the thing is, maybe we figured that out a little too late. Because if we wasn't sure of if we was doing right or wrong, one thing's for sure is that when the church betrayed us, I'm pretty sure we understood who the real enemy was at that point. So sorry. Little too late, I guess. But it all panned out. So, if you're not reading between the lines, I am talking about the roots of all these pedophiles and sick individuals that are considered to be socialites and elites in the world. Those guys' descendants are probably spinning in their graves if they were aware of all of this nonsense that these guys are doing. This disturbing nonsense, vile, devious nonsense that these guys are doing. Goggly goop. It's not the same. It's not the same people. They didn't have the same plan. They don't think the same. They don't do the same things. This current Illuminati appropriated is a benign symptom of corruption that just appropriated a name that belongs to an other organization that was concentrating on doing something completely different. I'm going to stop the video right here. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good one. Peace out.